Hello and welcome back to the channel, and we have a returning guest, the magical, the sexy, the non-YouTuber, so don't hit him up in the DMs, Mr. Stu!
Hello there everyone, hope you're all doing well, and thank you so much as always for having me on today.
Not a problem, my dude. Also, one thing you can tell by the background, yes, we're covering this movie. Yes, are we going to hate on it? Hell yes, don't worry, you've got all the juicy bits coming, and what we thought of this movie, because I'm going to tell you straight up, oh my god, I would rather feed this to... But I actually wouldn't even feed it to any living animal. It's that bad. So anyway, let's just get straight into this review. So as you can tell, we're doing the new Flash movie with, Michael Keaton as Batman, that woman, his Supergirl, forgot her actress name. So, Anyway, that is what it is. But before we get straight into it, I want Stu to go first this time. We're going to do a flip the script. If you're a Cobra Kai fan, you know what, you know. So, Stu, what were some of the things that you disliked about this movie? Because let's be real, there's not a lot to like.
Yeah, so a lot of the things I didn't like, I assume we're talking spoilers, by the way?
Yes, of course, yeah. Spoilers. So before he goes any further, if you don't want spoilers, but to be honest, you probably do want spoilers, because this movie will, if we save you from this movie, you can thank us in the comments later. Anyway, jokes aside, on you go, Stu.
No, cheers. So, all the cameos at the end of the film were for what the story was doing. It made sense, but it still felt quite cheap.
Yeah,
to be like, hey, look, it's this person. Hey, look, it's this person, and it just, I do get sometimes a bit tired of films making cameos, and then that's an excuse for the film to be good. It's like, no,
yeah.
It felt very cheap and just like shoehorned in there for the sake of it.
Yeah, very much.
Christopher Reeve being there, I'm on two sides, because on one side I'm like, yeah, that was kind of cool, but also I'm like, the man's been dead since like 2004. Like, let him rest, man.
Yeah.
Some of the comedy, especially
if you can call it comedy, emphasis on the comedy.
Yeah, I mean, like, some of the comedy did land, and I did get a chuckle sometimes, but the comedy during the final fight just did not land a lot of the time. It's like there's this big war going on in this desert, and these two Flash characters are telling each other what to do in a very goofy kind of way. It just felt like, in my opinion, that was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like the rock music, and even though I'm a big fan of rock music, like the rock music that played during that final fight, again, it just, like, it didn't feel like it suited that scene for the seriousness of the situation.
I can agree.
Dark Flash could have been utilized a lot more. Pardon me, I think it was the fact that he wasn't really there a lot. I think it would have been better if maybe, because in the comics, there's this character called Black Flash.
Yeah. Which
is essentially, to anyone that isn't aware, and do correct me, anyone in the comments, if I'm inaccurate with this description of that character. He is basically a representation of the Speed Force. He is the Flash. He is the Speed Force Flash that goes around and stops other speedsters from messing with time. And it felt like Dark Flash had elements of that, but was its own unique character to this film, which I understand, you can't do completely a word-for-word adaptation. You got to, do some sort of, creativity to it. But I felt this didn't land with this specific character. I felt like it would have been better if the Flash was Black Flash and maybe was following Barry around throughout the whole film. It would show up every now and then they have a final fight with him at the end. But it turned out it was just an older version of Barry Allen. I think it just felt,
See, for me, when it comes to that, especially, like, it turns out it's the Barry from the alternative universe that it got the Flash powers when Barry lost his. And one of the things that annoyed me the most is that he's not an integral part of the movie. He shows up once to push Barry out to this new timeline, and then he shows up again, and that's it. Like, he shows up for the finale, and that's about it. And that's when you find out that it's supposedly another version of Barry Allen. And to be honest, this movie does not do Barry Allen justice. This is not Barry Allen. It's not even Wally West. I don't know what the hell this is, but like, you know, it's a bit of a thing. But on you go.
No, but I agree with that. Like, even though I do think Ezra Miller did a good job in this film.
Yeah, for what he was given.
Exactly. I don't consider his character an accurate representation of the Flash from the source material.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. Also, disclaimer, quickly. We do not support this dude behind us. That is just one thing I would like to get out there. So just so people know, like, yeah, we'll give him compliments on what he does, but we're not saying that we justify anything this douche canoe has done. So continue.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a difference between on screen and in real life.
Yes.
Speaking of Ezra Miller, there was one scene that I wish I could unsee. And I don't understand why this was put in the film for comedy relief. It was cringe and it wasn't pleasant.
Yep, very much so. And I know exactly what scene.
The nudity that was in this film briefly. It was briefly, but it was still, you know, I didn't really want to see that. And I do find it just a slight off topic. I do find it interesting how there seems to be this occasional thing now where, you know, Hollywood are saying, you know, female characters need to be less feminine, less sexy and more masculine, but it's okay to sexualize men. We saw that with Chris Hemsworth in Thor Love and Thunder, and now we're seeing it with Ezra Miller in The Flash. I just find that interesting. Just wanted to note that out there.
Yeah.
Apart from that, those are mainly my negatives for this film. There are some positives, but we'll obviously go in that at the appropriate time of this video.
Yeah.
But that's mainly my gripes with the film.
Right, it's time for Negative Dan over here. You know, they self, like, to be fair, the fact that I have better humor than this movie should tell you a lot. Like, I'm not always funny. Like, I can use jokes, misland, but the amount of mislanding in this movie is unreal. Like, one specific thing, the opening was quite cool, but why the hell is there a baby in a microwave? And why is Ezra Miller, of all people, saving that baby? Like, dude, on the nose or something? Like, that opening scene was just such bizarreness. It was awesome. I'll give them props for letting us see, finally we got to see Batman's blue and grey suit. Took them long enough, and I'm happy they did that. But then the rest of it, I'm just like, like, the CGI for me in this movie, I know Stu's a bit different. For me, per se, it was terrible. To me, it reminded me of a PS2 cutscene, but that is just me. Because even, like, or like, the trailers where they amp the graphics up to make you buy the game, and then you're like, oh, that's not the real graphics. That's what it looked like to me. And same as you, like, we didn't need the nudity scene. Like, dude, if nobody wants to see us naked, nobody wants to see Ezra naked. Come on, like, look at us. We're like sexy dudes, and I'm joking anyway. But like, that's the thing. Like, so many people are like starting to do that whole, like, don't sexualize things. So then why are men showing up with their butt out? Like, you see full on. Like, it's not like it's like subtle. And the other version of Barry, oh my god, I want to, like, I do not dislike people often, but even looking at that guy, I want to slap him in the face. And then his personality does not measure up either, because he's basically a mummy's boy that never grew up. He's very childish. He's hanging out with emo, gothic, hippie sort of stoners. And I'm like, dude, I come from that background. It's accurate in some depictions, but dude, stop making me remember the traumatizing days, man. Like, chill. You know, obviously that's a joke. But when it comes to me, though, like, there's so much bad about this movie. Like, Christopher Reeves, as much as I loved him showing up, it's cheap. Dude, the guy's dead. Give him some respect, man. Also, the weird Nicolas Cage, like, thing as well. Like, why? I know it was a concept, but he was never Superman. So you're telling me in the DCEU that actually happened? That's not a good thing. It was horrible. He was fighting a spider. Why is Superman ever fighting a spider? For grids. This is not it. It's not Pennywise the Dancing Clown. It is legit just a spider for some reason, and it makes no sense. And then, so, like, the time travel explanation is terrible as well. Like, most of it doesn't make sense. Also, when we first see Michael Keaton, He looks like a hobo.
Oh, yeah,
Why?
that. Yeah.
Like, the dude is clear. Like, also, sadly, it's obviously hinted at that Penny, like, Alfred's dead in this as well. So apparently, Alfred died at some point, which is kind of respectful to the actor, because I'm pretty sure the actor from those original movies did die, because he was quite old when he filmed those movies, even in the 80s and 90s. He was like in his 70s and 80s by then. So I can understand why, but like, don't do Michael Keaton that bad. The amount of times that poor guy dies as well, man. Like, god damn, you chill. Like, other than the nostalgic scenes of him being Batman and fighting, there's a lot of issues when it comes to the way they handled that character, I believe, because they had to make him say, want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Again, it wasn't funny the first time. Don't do it again. Learn from your mistakes. I know it's like, oh, screw it. And then the worst scene of all, this scene is the reason why I don't think you should also see this. They bring back bat nipples. Not necessarily in movie form, like you don't see him in the Batman suit, but they make George Clooney the Batman, which makes no sense, because in this continuity he should be dead, because he's originally the Michael Keaton Batman. It's the same one, just him later on. Yeah. So why is he there? No. Like, if I could go to DC directly myself and go, what were you thinking? I would gladly do it. Don't get me wrong, DC, I'm not hating on you. I love a lot of your stuff. And by stuff, I mean animated stuff. When it comes to your live action, not so much. Some of it's okay, like Batman vs. Superman, that is okay. It's still a bad movie, but it's a watchable. When it comes to like Man of Steel and things, I can watch that. Batfleck never got a solo movie, which I think is an actual sin, so that's on you, DC. I'll blame you for that as well. When it comes to Aquaman, I couldn't care less, so yeah. And the fact that they're like, where's all these superheroes? They're not here, and then we just get like one switched version. Like, don't get me wrong, when it comes to Supergirl, I actually was surprised that I really liked her character, and there was one thing that put me a bit like, I was like, oh, Barry and her have got this thing going on, and I'm like, no. Not because I wouldn't mind it if it was a different actor, but you can't, it's kind of unbelievable to believe a girl would want a guy that's, you know, I'm just putting it out there, so I'm just saying, but there is good things about this movie, but also one of the other things that I have a gripe is that this is just not Barry Allen in the slightest. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not like avid into the Flash. Like, I have read some comics, I've looked into the backstory, I've watched a lot of animated movies where he's in, and I've also watched a few episodes of the Flash show, and so I know how it can be done right. This is definitely the opposite, and my good friend Cinnamamba, a shout out to you, my dude, he's the biggest Flash fan in the world, and his heart, I could hear it breaking in live. So that's how bad this was, because like, I don't mind the fact that it's a Flash movie. I don't mind, like, I try to separate Ezra Miller from it as well. But even once you do that, it's still just a bad movie overall. But we can get into some of the positives. I'll hand it over to Stu, and we can see somewhat of positives.
Yeah, there are some positive for sure. I just wanted, if you don't mind, just kindly add on to a couple of negatives you pointed out.
Of course.
So yeah, George Clooney being, turning up at the end as Bruce Wayne, I felt that was unnecessary. In my opinion, I think a better ending would have been Ben Affleck coming back out, them having that reconcile at the end, and then maybe having a drink at the bar or something and just talking, and then leaving it there or something. So again, that was just a cameo. It was just like, hey, look, it's this person, and it was just unnecessary in my opinion. And also, again, like with Michael Keaton's Batman at the start being like old and miserable and stuff like that, we've seen that so many times now with legendary characters in, a couple of times, especially, look at Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. He's a hermit.
Look at Obi-Wan and Kenobi show.
Everyone, the Kenobi show as well. It's just, it's this weird mini trend that we're seeing now where we have legendary old male characters just being turned to being like miserable old farts. I disagree.
In favor of the new characters as well. It's never because it serves the story's plot. It's like, oh, look at this brand new character we've made, and it's like, I don't care.
Like, you can bring in new characters, but respect what came before it, and a lot of the time that doesn't seem to happen these days, in my opinion. But that's obviously another topic entirely. So appreciate that. Go back into the positives. So again, all the main cast I thought did a great job with the roles that they were given, including Ezra Miller. He did a good job. I thought, I do feel bad. I forgot the name of the actress who played Supergirl, but I thought she was really good as well. I thought Michael Keaton's and Ben Affleck were the best in this film, especially Michael Keaton, because he had more screen time. I thought he was great. General Zod, even though he had very limited screen time, he was respected. His character was respected, and he was just a great. He was just fantastic. You know, Michael Shannon, is that his name?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
just done a fantastic job. So with the CGI, in my opinion, it's not as bad as a lot of people are understandably making it out to be. I've definitely seen better, though. That's no question. But I've seen worse as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's totally justifiable why yourself, Adam, and many other people don't like it at all. The connection that Barry had with his mother, and his father, you felt that.
Yeah.
I thought the film did a very good job with showing the connection Barry had with his family, especially his mother.
Right.
And was one particular scene that I absolutely loved was Michael Keaton's Batman taking on that brute Kryptonian soldier.
Oh yeah, I remember that scene. Yeah.
Because think about it, all this Kryptonian soldier needs to do is just punch him, and Batman's dead. He is dead. And Batman used his agility, his strategic to stall him for the two Flashes to take him out. But when the way he goes about doing it, and then you see that camera shot when Batman's been slammed to the floor and the brute's got that bomb on his head and he's freaking out a bit. And then you see them both standing looking at each other with this wide camera shot. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
And then he just and then the Kryptonian brute falls to the floor. I just thought that was a really epic scene.
Yeah.
That's mainly the positives really for me, I would say, though.
So for me, when it comes to the positives, I agree with you. It's like, as much as I don't like how like they kept killing Michael Keaton off every like 5 minutes, like it was shown to be badass, don't get me wrong. Like Michael Keaton and the performance, you can tell he wanted to come back to this character. He loved being Batman again, and that's one of the things I liked. One of the other things I did like is that, as my good friend Shaman would say, if you have a mother and you like have a single mother, you can relate to this story, especially with the mother-son dynamic of it, and it's very true because as much as I do dislike this movie, I will give them props for the relationships in that regard because you can feel the weight of it. You can see how hard it is for Barry to have to not be able to save his mother. He saves her originally, and that's what causes this whole mess in the first place. And Bruce advised him not to, and of course, him being him, he done it anyway. But it is what it is. Obviously, for me, the CGI was bad, but that's just because like I expect more, especially when they said that the budget for this movie was like what, 600 million or something, 400 million or something like that.
Yeah.
When it comes to Supergirl, she was really good. Like I really enjoyed the actress who portrayed her. She wasn't overly annoying. She was actually very endearing. She was very caring. She had a nurturing side, and she was willing to fight for hope, and I really like that. That is to me how you do a strong female character. That is the way you portray a good strong female character. She wasn't preaching anything. She wasn't too in your face. She was just there to do what she had to do. Another positive for me would have been as well is that another positive for me was also the fact that as much as it sounds a bit douchey, I'm happy it's over now. Like I'm finally glad that this, like after this, it's just Aquaman, and that's the end of the DCEU, and we have a good new fresh start. James Gunn, if you're listening, please don't screw this up for me because I will be highly, highly annoyed. So fingers crossed. You're already showing promise, so don't screw with that promise. But that's one of the positives for me because this movie was really bad. They done a lot of things wrong with the characters. They didn't do like some of the stuff, like as much as I love General Zod and I love how they respect him, like why the hell is he even there? Like he just kind of got thrown in there for Supergirl to fight. It was like they just chose a random date. Also, one last thing I forgot to bring up: How many times are you going to retcon Man of Steel? Okay, so Bruce was there, now Flash is there. All we're now missing is fucking Wonder Woman. So I think we're going to start giving like the score and then starting to wrap it up, because that's just how sad this movie is. I can normally go for 30 to 40 minutes with any movie, even some of the bad ones. This one, we've already scratched everything. Like, that's how you can tell it's a bad movie. So, me personally, I would have gave it like a 4.5, maybe a 5 if you're lucky, because I want to see Flash. I don't want to see Ezra Miller's doodah. You know, like, also, like, the one other positive before I go over it with my own stew. It was quite funny to see the dog randomly falling at the credits at the end. That was quite funny, because it made, like, it was just there randomly. Also, I think that's what all of my thoughts are. So, Stu, how about yourself?
I believe we've covered everything in regards to my thoughts on the film.
Score?
I would give it a 5 to a 5.5.
Okay. Just slightly higher.
Yeah, because I don't think it was necessarily, in my opinion, a bad film. Like, for example, I gave Ant-Man Quantumania a 5 purely because of Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah.
Like, Kang carried that film. But with putting it maybe a 5.5 with this film, because it wasn't just one particular character that stole the show. You know, there were moments throughout the film, even some comedic moments which were funny. So I would give this film a 5 to a 5.5 out of 10. I thought it was an average at best.
Fair it is. So I think we're going to start wrapping this up. So I have been Kane and Wilf. This has been my main man Stu, and we shall see you guys in the next video.
Take care, everyone.